The plan for today's video was to take a humble breakfast cereal and turn it into a White Lightning, Moonshine, white whiskey, whatever you want to call it, that I could then age for a significant amount of time. Plans have a way of changing. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, this is Still It, and this little chappy here is a Wheetbix. Block? Brick? I don't even know. It's a Wheetbix. The plan was to mash this, distill it, so on and so forth, and turn it into an aged whiskey. But nostalgia kind of took over and the plan changed. Anyone that grew up in Australia, New Zealand, I guess the UK as well, I think you have Wheetbix, pretty much the same thing. Perhaps let me know in the comment section down below where you grew up, when, and whether or not you had Wheetbix there, because I don't actually know. And for that reason, I should probably explain what these things are and why the nostalgia is so freaking crazy. Wheetbix are essentially flaked wheat that have been pressed together into a cake or a brick. And the trick is you need to break them just so into a bowl so you get the right amount of milk penetration. Too big and they're dry and horrible. Too small and you're eating nothing but mush. And of course, because it was the 90s for me, we ate them with about 6 spoons of sugar over the top. But the most important part of Wheetbix, by far, was long, in-depth conversations with your friends about exactly how many Wheetbix you ate for breakfast. With all of that out of the way, let's talk about the recipe for the mash, which is going to be super freaking simple. I started with 18 liters of boiling water and dumped 3 boxes of Wheetbix into it. And this clip here is about 30 seconds after I put the last Wheetbix in. It gets real thick really quickly. The reason I'm doing it at high temperature is not to gelatinize it. The reason I'm doing it at high temperature is because I'm using the high temperature alpha amylase. So once all the Wheetbix were in, I added the alpha amylase in. Normally I would actually put this in beforehand, but I kind of wanted to show you how thick it would get. And it thinned out insanely quickly. About 1.5 minutes after adding the alpha amylase in, this is what it looked like. But I did give it a full hour to mash properly. At the end of an hour, it was time to let it cool down. And when it cooled down to 60 degrees Celsius, I added in the glucoamylase. This is the stuff that will take the kind of mixture of longer chain sugars and shorter chain sugars, cleave them all down into small little sugar molecules that our yeast can eat happily. Yeast selection, honestly, is kind of dealer's choice on this one. I don't think there is a specific best practice yeast for Wheetbix. But I am testing another M-type yeast out at the moment, so I decided to use that just to get another data point on it. This yeast handles high temperatures pretty well, so I fermented at 35 degrees Celsius, and 3 days later, fermentation was finished. I let it go for another 1.5 days for all the remaining Wheetbix goop to settle out down to the bottom, and then it was time to skim it out off the top, leaving the really thick stuff behind, and pop it into our stills. This video is sponsored by Still Spirits, more specifically their brand new Air Still Pro. Now you can't buy a review on the Still It channel, that's just not how reviews work. I have done that already for this product, and you can check a link out down there if you want to. But today, mostly I'm just gonna kind of use the product and show you some of its cool features. But the thing that really sets this product apart, well, there's 3 of them. The first is that it does pot distillation. We expect that, that's cool. But the second is that it does reflux as well in this number 3 tiny little package. And the reflux is actually pretty respectable. It is downright amazing when you take into consideration the size of the product. Once you get it up and running, it'll hold 90% pretty damn well throughout most of the run. That is freaking cool. But anyway, let's get into distilling this stuff, shall we? First of all, it's time for the stripping run. So I'm going to scoop relatively gently out of the fermenter and into the air still pot. Now, I know this thing has a max line on it, but something like this, I would suggest filling it not quite to the tippy top, give it a little bit more room, and either use some conditioning agent or something like butter to help alter the surface tension and stop pukes from happening. Because I've got to get through a decent amount of wash, and this is a relatively small still, I'm going to bring in the Airstill Pro's little brother, the Airstill, to help out on stripping duty as well. When the stills have completely done their dash and the drips coming off the spout are down to like 15%, turn the stills off, empty them out, fill them up again, and rinse and repeat until all of the wash is distilled. Now we have low wines which can go back into the pot to be run for the spirit run. But here's the thing, this stuff is so freaking packed with Wheetbix flavor. It is so thick and oily on the mouth that I'm thinking a double pot distillation run might actually, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, be too much flavor. So here's the plan. I'm going to put 2/3 of the low wines into the Airstill Pro and run it in pot still mode. Easy. You turn the thing on, you hold the button down until it goes purple, and then you switch out the reflux nozzle for the pot still nozzle. Wait for it to warm up and Bob's your uncle. You're into a pot distillation run. I used rolling cuts to go from heads to hearts, and honestly it was all of the normal descriptors that I would use for heads. Waited for the weird kind of floral thing to go away, waited for the nose to clean up, and then waited for the kind of like astringent, almost mouthfeel taste near the end of the heads to go away, into hearts. Tails were a weird one. I didn't get a lot of tails at all in this. The flavor just kind of vanished at around about 52% ABV, so I called it quits there. So I emptied the pot out again and then put the remaining 1/3 of the low wines back in, and this time I ran it in reflux mode. So we're going to be running it around about 90% ABV once the still's kind of up and running. It'll take care of the 4 shots for us first. It automatically collects around about 25 mils every time you run the still into the 4 shots vial. And then once again, I just used rolling cuts to find my hearts. The idea being here, team, is that I've got the pot still and the reflux that I can blend together in a ratio that I like after the fact and mix around with, you know, tincturing and so on and so forth. So let's go see how that worked out, shall we? Here we are. This is what we are left with. I've got the reflux version on this side and the double pot stilled version over on this side. I've tasted both of these off camera just to make sure we're actually kind of where I was thinking we would end up. And we pretty much are. This is super heavy Wheetbix flavor, which is fun, but honestly, it's a bit too much. This is Wheetbix flavor, but lacking in body. It's light. There's not as much flavor, but mostly it's the mouthfeel that's changed. For all of this, surprisingly, there is a decent amount of kind of fruitiness as well. And I believe that is coming from the yeast. But I have gone ahead and set up a couple of little blends here. We have 1-to-1 reflux to pot. We have 2-to-1, so 2 parts pot, 1 part reflux, and 3 parts pot, 1 parts reflux as a starting point. If we don't hit exactly what I'm looking for here, we can always, you know, tweak it. You know what, let's start all the way up here on the lighter side of things. Still smells pretty Wheetbixy, to be real. Okay, so lots of flavor carryover. Very light, pretty feeling on the mouth. I can work with that. If we wanted to not age it and use it as a base for a liqueur, that makes a lot of sense. But let's give this a nudge. Oh, wow, okay. Lots more grainy impact on the nose, like it's much more upfront. Yeah, and more of a heavy, luxurious, silky feeling on the mouth. Slightly rougher, ever so slightly rougher, but barely. All right, so this one is 3 parts pot, 1 part reflux. Interesting, this has about the same amount of graininess, but it has a kind of a heavy, buttery presence on the nose as well. So I'm guessing this is going to be quite slick. Definitely bigger, definitely heavier. But to me, it's between these two. And I don't want to push it any further this way, and it makes no sense to go further this way to me. So I think this is going to come down to what I end up doing with this. I had intended on putting this on oak for a while. And if I'm going to do that, I think the 2-to-1 makes a lot of sense. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe this turns into something more like a liqueur. And I'm kind of imagining like milk and honey in Wheetbix somehow. If we're going to go with that, then maybe this makes a lot more sense. I think it is time to bring Erin in and see what she has to say about this. All right, Erin, I have made a spirit 100% from Wheetbix.
Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And we need to decide how we're going to serve this. But first, we need to say a huge thank you to who?
The Patreons.
We do. Why? Why do we love the Patreons?
Because they support the channel. They keep the lights on.
They do, month in, month out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
And I don't have a salary anymore, so.
Erin's getting a little freaked out over here. So thank you, Patreons.
Thank you, Patreons.
Letting Erin freak out less. But anyway, here's the deal. I am not sure which way to go. You can try this one. Oak age the Wheetbix spirit. Try and sweeten it up, get a little bit of vanilla and caramel in there, round the rough edges off.
So you're saying you want to oak age this? Okay.
Yes, I want you to taste it neat. So it's at 55%.
Wow, it's so Wheetbixy.
Right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, so much Wheetbix.
I'm not even a good taster, and I'm 100% sure I would say Wheetbix if I picked it up.
Yeah. Out of, like, often the stuff that we distill, you get like a faint hint of what it is when you distill it.
Or
this is just Wheetbix.
Or someone tells you what it is, and then you're like, oh, of course, it smells exactly like that. But
this is like a sledgehammer, though, eh?
So crazy. I would definitely age it. It's nice.
Some point in time, when I was standing there talking to the camera, I realized what is the flavor you're used to tasting with Wheetbix?
And I love milk. So.
Milk, yeah. So
you already put it in here?
I have, yes. That's at about 20%.
It's so delicious. I just can't believe how sweet it is, too. Did you put sweetener in there?
There's no sweetener in there
weird.
at all.
It definitely tastes like it has sugar on the Wheetbix. That's just so weird.
Isn't that just nostalgia in a glass? Like, that makes me feel like a kid again.
I didn't grow up on Wheetbix.
I guess so. That's true.
But it reminds me of the kids eating Wheetbix. For Americans, maybe like frosted mini wheats or something like that. I don't know. There probably is some kind of Wheetbix equivalent. We were too unhealthy to eat it. It's so crazy. I don't know why I think it would be nice warm. There's something warming about it.
Well, yeah, it's comforting, right?
Yeah, like maybe that's what it is.
I don't know. It makes me feel safe and fuzzy inside.
Oh, babe.
I do think it would be worth sweetening it a little bit to see what happens, though. Because honestly, I was imagining it was going to need a bunch of sugar to be drinkable. But it's sweet by itself.
I can't believe it doesn't have any sugar in it.
It's just literally spirit
So
milk.
weird.
All right, I have hunted and gathered maple syrup from the far-off land of the kitchen. Me first. Oh, wow. Does that not taste more like the milk in the bottom of a cereal bowl?
Oh, totally.
Than it did without the sugar?
I think that's what made me think of frosted mini wheats too, because
you're starting
I
to
did
get
grow
that
up on
sweetness.
that, and all that sugary stuff would fall on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
It's like very weedy sweetness. That is properly weedy sweetness.
I like this better than no sugar. What do you think?
I like the other one too.
I'm a little bit worried that aging that is just going to be strange.
It might be strange. It smells better, more Wheetbixy, straight up Wheetbix. It does taste a little strange.
The other thing is it going to end up tasting like weird old Wheetbix? I don't know.
This is like insanely delicious now. All right, this one then. Quicker.
You mean we get to drink it now? All right, I can do that. All right, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please do us a couple of favors. Give it a thumbs up. Lets YouTube know it's a good video, and it'll show it to other people, which is good for all of us. Drop a comment in the comment section down below and let us know what you would have done if you had this Wheetbix whiskey sitting in front of you. And most importantly, we'll catch you next time. Keep on chasing the craft, guys. See ya.
Should I wave?
It's a bit late now, but the people probably want you to wave.
Is that awkward?
That was awkward.